Mayor Horvath, I have not issued a member statement for some time, but I am going to use this occasion to speak to a matter that I think unfortunately has divided this council and created much conversation in the community. And I feel compelled to speak to it because it absolutely gets to the essence and core of my service, and that is one of justice. The decision, regrettable decision, in my opinion, not to afford the courtesy of this body to deliberate and formally ratify a vote is one of regret, in which I did not get to speak to a matter of utmost importance. And so I'm going to take this non-debatable opportunity to speak to it now. The decision not to proceed with the staff recommendations is so contrary to the policies and action plans that this council unanimously supported over the past year and a half. It has been one of the reasons the community has been paying attention. The second one, I think, is the public visibility of the crisis that is before us in every part, almost, of this city. And in their search for answers, many residents have come to understand our housing system and the absolute necessity of action and public investment in housing. It's the third issue that I really want to spend a little bit of time on, and it gets to the issue and the value and the objective of justice in city building. We have known for some time that housing policy has been absolutely affected by issues of race and issues of income. Right after World War II, a labor coalition bought a piece of property in Toronto for the purpose of building housing for returning soldiers because they knew there would be a crisis of demand. And they faced a little bit of a hiccup when they went to proceed with the housing, in that they found there was a restrictive covenant on the property that prohibited Jews, and what was the word? It's really interesting word. Jews or persons of objectionable nationality from buying the property. And so that labor group coalesced with Canadian Jewish Congress, and they started 5 years of legal wrangling. 1950, the Supreme Court of Canada finally outlawed racially motivated riders on land deals. I'm not suggesting that this is part of this decision at all. I am suggesting I'm trying to give a context of history. The practice of exclusion in development was really evident in the creation of the suburbs. And residential builders relied on a whole array of deed restrictions in order to exclude certain buyers. They included riders governing materials. You could only use bricks. They demanded and set into law minimum building values and minimum lot sizes, all for the purpose of excluding those who did not have the money to get into those suburbs and those new settlements. And this is all documented right here in Hamilton by Richard Harris, who is a professor of history at McMaster. Zoning has been used to exclude those to come into housing. We know this. It has been clearly documented. The first time, really overtly, the town of Point Grey, which is now part of Vancouver, they used single-family zoning to exclude certain people. And only those who could afford a mortgage were able to live in that particular neighborhood. And the Commissioner of Planning of Point Grey said as such, it was to ensure that Point Grey did not become a slum district. This kind of exclusionary form of zoning maintained uncontested for over 100 years until in 2019. The city of Minneapolis became the first city in North America to dismantle single-family zoning. It didn't mean that single-family homes couldn't be built or that existing single-family homes had to be demolished. It just meant that it was going to be easier to build more inclusive and accessible forms of housing, like houseplexes on previously single-family homes. Which leads us to Hamilton. Code Red, a study, an internationally acclaimed award-winning study that was out almost about 15 years ago that showed clearly in Hamilton we have poverty by postal code, and it wasn't an act of God. It was intentional policy that caused the creation and the concentration of poverty, and it was planning and housing that contributed. And we know that the impact of concentrated poverty has been disastrous for the health and economic performance and outcome of people. We know that neighborhoods of concentrated poverty have lost over time their political capital. It can lead to a whole bunch of things like highways running through your neighborhoods. They become the sacrifice zone. We also know it's more politically convenient to do more of the same, to follow the path of least political resistance and to further concentrate poverty and affordable housing in the same areas time after time after time. If we want to take Riverdale as an example, we know it has a low income index of about 20%. The Lake Avenue neighborhood, half of that. When you're busy trying to survive, you don't have a lot of opportunity to advocate. Building affordable housing and permitting diverse housing stock advances equity, and providing affordable non-market housing in all neighborhoods in this city can increase choice, increase access to amenities such as green space, and reduce disparities in school catchment areas. The most effective and efficient highway out of poverty remains a valuable, good quality public education system. There is enough quantitative evidence showing us that when we have mixed income classrooms, those children do better from lower incomes. Principals know this. Middle income kids, they do better. And if there are any higher income kids left in public schools, it doesn't hurt them. This is the challenge of our time. This is why people are paying attention. This is why our actions must match our words. This is why I have taken this time to spell out my position, not to create division, not to shame, but to say it is our responsibility to lead. And I certainly will support the city and this mayor should she deem it necessary to act when this council has failed to do so. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. First, I just want to thank the wonderful Stoney Creek community who have shown immense support as we've worked so incredibly hard to represent their needs and find an alternative that can bring affordable housing to a close location on Lake Avenue. This location will bring affordable housing to the same street, but also save our businesses, the medical building, and the wonderful events that take place from the trials that come as a result of the removal of the parking in downtown Stoney Creek. The residents of Stoney Creek have shown incredible kindness, sincerity, and a willingness to help me find a great compromise that works for not only Ward 5, but the city of Hamilton as a whole. Again and again, I have seen the compassionate and wonderful individuals who want to see affordable housing, but also know Stoney Creek better than all of us and understand what removing this parking lot would do to their businesses. I believe the business owners, the Chamber of Commerce, and the BIA when they explain how detrimental this decision would be to their businesses. I believe the elderly who continue to call me and let me know the harms it would cause by removing this parking lot. And I also believe that every councillor around this horseshoe and the mayor continue to want to find compassionate solutions to our housing crisis. I truly believe that. There's nobody in this room here that doesn't. But I believe the right thing to do is listen to those in Stoney Creek who know better than all of us. The feedback has been explicitly that the removal of these parking lots will be detrimental to 5 and 13 Lake Avenue. However, we do need affordable housing. We are a city of many communities, and it's not appropriate to compare the decision today to how Jewish individuals were treated in the 1940s. In fact, I'm grateful for the democratic decision that was made today, and it remains democratic. And so I would love to invite any councillor here that hasn't met the fine people of Stoney Creek, come on down. Visit the wonderful community of Stoney Creek. Get to know their concerns. If everyone did this to all of our communities, we'd make Hamilton truly a better place. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Francis. We don't have any further members wishing to speak to this item at this time. So member statements are then complete. Councillor Maureen Wilson has a point of order. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I was clear in my comments, and I take exception. The reference was to provide context that housing has always been weighed down and affected by income, and before that, by race. I was not, and I said so in my comments, I was not comparing the folks of Stoney Creek and suggesting that they were in the same pool of trying to racially discriminate against people. So I would ask the gentleman beside me to make sure he understands that, and if he wouldn't mind clarifying his comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Wilson. I appreciate your point of order and would agree that you made it very clear that that was not specifically something that was drawing a line towards what's happening in Stoney Creek. And I know that Councillor Francis, I can see you urgently wanting to speak. I would just ask people, we've gotten this far. We've done a not bad job, notwithstanding this difficult issue. So please take a moment to think, and then you're welcome to speak to the point of order that was raised.
I appreciate the clarifying comments from Councillor Maureen Wilson.
Thank you, Councillor Francis. Appreciate that. Okay, we're finished with the statements by members, and I appreciate them very much.